Fundamentally, new investment prospects are opened up with blockchain technology protocols. What's new about it is, in particular, the ability to invest in a protocol. What we mean by that is that, for example, TCP/IP is a protocol that is powering the internet, but you could not invest in that. You cannot have a stake in that particular protocol. The same with the network technology that underlines wireless communications network. There are protocols, there are software solutions, sometimes software, sometimes hardware, sometimes a combination, that enable these types of technologies to proliferate. And in the past, you could not invest in those. You could use them, you could develop them, build companies around them, all these things, but you cannot invest in the protocols. This is new now. You can invest in a protocol. And we did that. We did invest in two of the protocols that are available right now. But I think in general, blockchain technology is offering this new perspective. And like David Deutsch says, new developments require not just new explanations, but also new modes of explanations, which means sometimes it's not just that you have to have a new explanation, you even have to change the way you explain things. And this is exactly what's happening with blockchain technology. This is the Not Even Wrong podcast. It's April 17, 2021. This is Krim Delko. This is a Saturday, so there's no update. For the year, we are up 2.5%. The market is up 10.5%. We're underperforming by 8%. I want to talk about the potential to invest in protocols, which is a new thing. It's completely changing the investment landscape. It's completely giving us investors new exposures to potential wealth-generating opportunities that just weren't there before. Now, let me elaborate. We invested in ETH, which is the token that is sort of associated with the Ethereum protocol. The Ethereum is a blockchain protocol that allows for smart contracts. So the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin, amongst many, one is that Ethereum allows for Turing-complete programming language within the contracts that are written, and therefore you can basically build a universal Turing machine in a decentralized blockchain form. So you can build contracts that execute themselves based on algorithmic processes, and you can also build contracts that are built on other contracts, which is in the blockchain technology world called composition. So you can build contracts, then other people can tie into those contracts. You don't have to talk to other people. You don't have to communicate, get permission. So for example, there is this exchange, 1inch, which is aggregating liquidity in decentralized exchanges. And they can basically tap into the smart contracts which are underlying these individual exchanges and just aggregate the liquidity. You don't have to talk to these exchanges. You don't have to have contracts and things like that. Licenses, none of that stuff. So this is very early days, and probably the ultimate use case for these things will be something that we can't even conceive about. But fundamentally, what's really exciting about this whole blockchain space, and in particular the Ethereum blockchain technology, is the availability of universal smart contracts, the availability of what we call compound square. So not just that you have, it's not just compound, it's the network effect which compound and square. So it's not just that we have the network effect here, which means that, let's say, an Ethereum blockchain becomes valuable because everybody else is using it and everybody else is familiar with the technology underlying and all that stuff. It is also valuable in a sort of second degree version or square, as we call it, because you can start building contracts on top of the Ethereum contract, within the Ethereum blockchain. You can use smart contracts, and because of composability, you can build contracts on top of each other. You can create value on top of other contracts, and then those can build contracts again, and so on and so forth. This is really the beginning of things. Like I said, for example, this aggregation exchange, the 1inch exchange. They are a bit like Google, aggregating information, but they don't need to have access and permission to aggregate anything in the Ethereum blockchain. Any smart contract which is living in the Ethereum blockchain through composability is available to other developers to be used for whatever application they desire. And this is really what's so beautiful about it. Now, we have invested in ETH. We're not investing in companies to some extent because we are, like I said many times, Thourgh Capital Partners, we prefer to be in the public markets. So we prefer to have publicly traded, publicly listed securities, and private companies are a little bit more complicated to invest in. Doesn't mean they're bad investments or anything like that. Anyway, this is not investment advice. So please don't take what I'm saying here as any kind of investment advice. Do your own thinking, do your own research. What we're thinking here at Thourgh Capital Partners is that we want to be exposed to ETH. Why do we want to be exposed to it? How do we expect to make money with ETH? So we expect ETH to gain in value because it's going to become the underlying currency of global trade. This is what we expect. We expect Ethereum to disrupt the law, to disrupt property law in particular, the financial markets, to disrupt pretty much any kind of transaction between people, between companies, between entities, and offer a faster and more secure and decentralized way to store value and also to transact in value. So this is what we expect. If we're right on that, then we believe that ETH the adoption of ETH will generate a lot of value for the Ethereum token, which is ETH. The adoption of Ethereum will generate a lot of value for the actual token, which is ETH. This is our conjecture. We haven't really figured out a fundamental model to value ETH, so there's no valuation of ETH in the sense that it trades at this market cap and it should be that market cap, because I think because of this compound network effect, this network squared effect, which really means it's much more than just squared. It's cubed. It's to the fourth power, etc. It's just terribly difficult to assess any kind of number, and I think it would be naive to put a number and then also sell it because now it's overvalued, for example. I think that would be very naive on our part to even think like that. However, we have an opportunity to at least assess the wealth generation opportunity here. So this is a new technology, and like David Deutsch says in his 8th chapter of The Beginning of Infinity, new explanations require new modes of explanation. So we have to find an explanation, first of all, why is this digital currency ETH valuable? And the explanation here is because there is an underlying blockchain technology and protocol which uses ETH to function. ETH is powered through this this network needs ETH to function. The nodes, they get paid in ETH in order to fulfill their function of voting and consensus mechanism creation and all these things. So ETH is powering this network. So the more people adopt Ethereum, the more valuable ETH will become, because the more liquid the currency will become, the more it will be used by other people. And at some point also we'll have the sort of I call it the blockchain supremacy, which is when the blockchain technology and the digital world and the use of ETH within the digital world will eclipse the actual use of ETH in the real world. So you will have let's say a GDP, a Ethereum GDP, so a GDP which is built powered on top of the blockchain technology, which is powered by Ethereum. And then you'll have a GDP, let's say people buying underwear and things like that, which again, of course, a lot of that buying will be powered by Ethereum, but it will not be, of course, everything. So we think we're pretty far away from blockchain supremacy or anything like that. But I guess for the purposes today, in order to sound a little bit smarter than just the Peter Thiel concept of, well, this is stupid, I'm just going to buy it because it's the most stupid investment and nobody else is going to do it, or something like that. We're not going to think like that. We're going to try to quantify the upside that we have in Ethereum. And the way we're thinking about this is that currently there's about 250 billion worth of ETH in the system. We think that if Ethereum succeeds and becomes this blockchain supremacy underlying token for, underlying protocol, and then the token ETH powering this protocol for global trade, and it creates not just network effects, but network effects squared and cubed and so on and so forth, we will have orders of magnitude more wealth generation potential globally than we have today. Here's two reasons why. Number one, we have again this network squared effect just by sheer availability. Like, let's say I can build an exchange on top of Ethereum. I don't need to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to create something like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. I can do it from my garage, from my dorm room. This is just, it's a bit like cloud computing. It just opens up avenues, optionality. And I think the second part is that all this can happen now globally. It can happen in Zimbabwe. It can happen in Nepal. It can happen anywhere else, because we've also solved with Ethereum. We have, like any other decentralized successful blockchain technology, we have solved for the intermediary problem. We have solved for legal issues. We have all these typical country type problems have been solved. So in other words, what has been very local in, let's say, places like Silicon Valley, Massachusetts, Singapore, Switzerland, now can happen in Zimbabwe. It can happen in Nepal. Any kind of talent, any kind of energy, entrepreneurial energy can be tapped into, and therefore we expect orders of magnitude, maybe 2, maybe even 3 of more wealth generation. If today's global, let's say the global market cap of the dollar is, let's say, 100 trillion, we can easily go into the thousands of trillions with Ethereum as a fully functioning underlying blockchain technology, and therefore the upside for ETH as a token underlying this protocol is tremendous. That's why we see enormous potential here. We don't want to quantify it in a sense, oh, well, it's a buy at 2,300 and a short at 3,500. This would be naive again. I think we're just not able to even, we can't conceptualize that. But what we can say is that if it succeeds, the upside is enormous, and this is a very good, robust network. It's run by people that know what they're doing. It's also open source in a sense. The Ethereum Foundation is kind of like an open source community. So the chances that they will solve the problems that are necessary and build an innovation stack around Ethereum are very high. And that's another very positive vector that adds to our investment. Now, before I end this episode, I also want to discuss our Algorand investment. Algorand is sort of Ethereum 2.0. It solves for the trilemma in blockchain technology, which is decentralization, security, and scalability. Ethereum and Bitcoin both solve for 2 out of those 3, decentralization and security. Decentralization just means that the network has to be decentralized, so nobody has the power to alter the ledger, to make changes, to decide how changes should be made in the future. All of that stuff has to happen in the network. And second, security, of course, that all the transactions have to be safe, Sybil attacks have to be prevented, all these kinds of things that cryptography in general is trying to solve. Now, the problem with those two is scalability. Scalability is not happening in a sense that it's very expensive and the amount of transactions per second is limited. For example, just to give you a sense, Bitcoin has something like 3 to 5 transactions per second. Visa has about 2,000 and a theoretical maximum of about 50,000 transactions per second. So Visa scale is the goal, and actually Algorand says in their white paper that they, particularly with the latest sort of innovations around the Algorand blockchain technology, that they could have a theoretical maximum of 45,000. So they're definitely Visa scale. So they solve for security, decentralization, and scalability. In other words, Algorand is a layer 1 solution to the scalability problem. Now, what does that mean? Layer 1 solution, there's basically 2 ways to solve the blockchain scalability problem. In other words, the problem that blockchains are slow and expensive to maintain. One is you can embed it within the blockchain itself, and this is what Algorand is trying to do. So Algorand is trying to build a blockchain where the native processes are such that it's scalable and not too expensive. Silvio Micali, the founder, we spoke to him about 2 weeks ago. He is a very decorated mathematician, computer science professor at MIT. He won the Gödel Prize and the Turing Award. So the accolades are there, and he's offering a mathematical and computer science solution to the layer 1 problem of scalability. This is, in a nutshell, what the potential of Algorand is. And By the way, layer 2 solutions, which is what mainly people are doing, is that you take transactions off blockchain, you net them, you transact off blockchain, and then use the blockchain more like a sort of once in a while netting mechanism. Of course, that brings problems with it. For example, the problem of decentralization, in my view, is questionable here because you have, well, I mean, if let's say a network is using doing transactions off blockchain and using the blockchain, but the network itself is centralized, then what's the point of decentralization? If there's traceability, things like that, the governments can go after you, and I'm not so sure. Of course, these solutions are much better thought through, and I don't want to be overly negative here about them. I'm just saying that a layer 1 solution or a native solution, a solution which incorporates already the scalability within the blockchain, to me just sounds as a much better solution. This is what Algorand offers. So we bought Algo. Again, the idea, how do we make money with Algo, is that if Algorand becomes the underlying technology for transactions globally, and we have the same composability, we have the Turing complete programmability. Well, it's not 100% Turing complete actually, so Algorand is not as flexible when it comes to programmability as Ethereum is, but for certain use cases, Algorand is probably a much better underlying blockchain technology than Ethereum. For others, Ethereum is maybe better. So again, we believe that there is a huge potential here to generate wealth and through the tokens, because if Algorand is used, and then you have composability on top of Algorand, you can see how, again, our network squared value generation theme plays, and that's why we invested in Algorand. So in Algo. I just want to be clear, in this blockchain conversation, we often confuse the protocol with the actual token. So for example, with Bitcoin, it's the same. Bitcoin capital is the capital Bitcoin is the currency, and the lowercase Bitcoin is the protocol. With Ethereum, Ethereum is the protocol, and ETH is the token. And with Algorand, Algorand is the protocol, and Algo is the token. So we have invested in ETH and in Algo. Our thesis is that we have exposure to the protocol, that the underlying blockchain technology proliferates throughout global trade, becomes the powering technology for the internet of value and the internet of trust. We've spoken about this before. We believe that blockchain technology can solve the trust and identity problem on the internet, and therefore be a much more potent driver of value creation. And those protocols, in particular Ethereum and Algorand, we see them as the potential solutions to the problem of universality, which is Ethereum, and then the trilemma of scalability, decentralization, and security solved by Algorand. So in combination, we could even see a combination of those two protocols in the foreseeable future, which is another interesting concept, a merger of protocols. But we don't want to go there now. This is a whole new episode. For now, we're invested in ETH, we're invested in Algo. We believe that those tokens represent blockchain technology protocols that have the potential to proliferate and become fundamental building blocks of a new type of internet of security, internet of trust, internet of identity, generate wealth beyond just network effects. Thank you.